chat. We got Evan. Hi, Alex. Shimazu. Hello, everyone. Evan Shipcott. It's showtime. Awesome. Let me just go ahead and get into the game. Oh, I need to charge my phone. Let me just connect my phone to the charger real quick. Okay, I'm back. I just need to go to my YouTube channel on my phone to make sure I can see your guys' comments. And how do I get to my channel? Oh, right, okay. Click on that. All right. Okay. All right. So we are here on the Titanic. Really neat. It's funny now that I'm designing stuff for a game. Now I look at things in this game and I see it so much more analytically now. You know, things I can learn from it. And also stuff I recognize. It's pretty cool. That looks cool. Who is this? Zach's Enchanted Escapades. Hey, Alex, how's it going, mate? It's going all right, Zach. Yeah. So, hello, everyone. Good to see you all here. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask, and I will try to answer. I may not be the best person for knowledge of Titanic, but if you got Queen Mary questions, I certainly got that. I have a lot of information about that ship, but this one, I know a bit. Here's one of the first class lifts. Yeah, I love this game. I play it about every 3 or 4 months on my channel. I try not to do it too often because then people, they don't show up to the stream because they get so used to it. But there's just so much detail in this simulator. I love it. I've never really been one to play video games, but simulators like this, I can totally get into it. Honestly, I love stuff like this. Shimazu says, since my graphics card is dying a slow death, I'll have to experience this through you while I save up for a new one. Oh, yeah. Five Cats Film says, hi, Alex. In the Queen Mary's drawing room, when it used to be the gift shop, they had these wooden slats on the walls for displaying things, I think. Have they removed those yet? Oh, yes. Yeah, totally. They removed all of them and threw them all away. In fact, they removed the vast majority of them. In fact, I think maybe even all of them. They removed all of them way back in, I want to say May or even February. I think it's February, actually. They removed them all in February of last year. So it's been a long time. They've been gone. Where are we? B deck? Where should we go? You guys should tell me where we should go. Let's see. Hey, Eric, how's it going? Ozzy, weather is pretty okay. Nice and cold, cloudy, just the way I like it. Ozzy says, go to the potato room. You in that potato room, always. Darius says, yeah, I heard that this game was supposed to have some sort of story mode. Is that still in development, or has it been abandoned? Do you know anything? From what I know, I I think the idea of a story mode has been abandoned, but they they are still going for a a realistic experience. And right now they're completely rebuilding the game. So what we're exploring right now is the remnants of the original game that they were building. And they're not going to use these remnants anymore. They're going for a much more high quality version that they are developing as we speak, literally from the ground up, quite literally, because the problem with this game, for instance, is there are limitations. Like, notice down this hallway, there is no shear. The hallway does not bow downwards the way a ship would. It's just perfectly flat and straight. And that's something they couldn't really convincingly fix with this version of the game. They had to literally start building the ship from the ground up, starting with all of the original, what do you call it? All of the structural beams and supports, they had to put them in themselves in order to make it make sense. So they're literally building the ship the way that the shipbuilders would have built it. And so that part's incredible. I mean, it's just absolutely amazing. And so what they're building is actually really cool. I'm excited to see it. But they've released this version of the game as kind of like a demo to play around with and just have fun with, because essentially they're not really going to use this one anymore. So, yeah. Five Caps Film says Strauss Suite. Okay, we are near there. We'll go see the potato room later, Ozzy. Yeah, I think they're gonna have a syncing mode. I'm still against the syncing mode thing. I mean, call me, old fashioned or whatever. I don't. I think that's it's very insensitive to have a game with a survival syncing mode or whatever. Even if it's not a survival aspect, it is still a syncing. Like, you're recreating the horrific moment that people died. It's one thing to represent it in a movie in order to get the audience to sympathize with the moment. But when it's in a game mode like this, people often treat it like a game, and they're going to sit there and go, oh, look how cool this is. And it's like, some child literally swallowed water to death, So it's things like that that I don't support, that I'm like, I don't think they should have a syncing mode. But, this is their product. They can do whatever they want with it. And I will only use it for, the explorable aspect to see the design of it. Now, if they had done this game as Olympic instead, that would have been cool. I would have had even more respect than I already have, because at least, Olympic did not suffer such a tragic fate. And so therefore there's no chance of, someone else making light of it, but I can already see all the live streams that people will have where they start making jokes about the people that died and stuff. It's just like, I can already see it happening. What was I doing? Oh, right. Down to C deck to the Strauss Suite. I don't know what happened, but my my graphics card is running a lot more smoothly than ever. I probably just jinxed it right now. Who knows? But my graphics card used to struggle to load all this in. And I'm starting to think that, I don't know, maybe like they released a set of drivers or something that I recently installed that just totally fixes that issue. I don't know, but I'm getting this game in like 60 frames per second, and it's loading in very quickly. I'm not having any issues. And I've noticed that the same thing for other things I'm working on too, because I'm working on a game as well, and it's just working a lot better. So I don't know. This is the Strauss Suite. Absolutely the most beautiful room, in my opinion, on the ship. It's just, spectacular. And I love the way the sunlight hits it and the way the light reflects off the glossy walls. I love the color of the wood paneling. It's like almost like a cherry red, almost. It's still pretty golden brown, but it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. Um, let's see what else other people say. Top of deck. Go to the alcohol room. Night mode. There's no night mode on this. I'm sorry, Evan. Olympic to Titanic. Yeah. Yeah. So we'll finish looking around the Strauss suite, and then we'll kind of wander over to what was the other place the person said? The top of deck. Okay, because I do kind of have to go that direction anyway for a few other things. I like getting a nice wide view like this because it's really neat. But man, there's just so much detail in here. It's just incredible. And again, like now that I'm making stuff for a game of my own, now I have a lot more of an analytical eye for how they did stuff, and it helps me to get ideas for how to do stuff. Of course, they have better techniques now. Like I follow some of their updates, and they have much better techniques now for building things. So I'm sure like if I learn anything from this, maybe it might not be the best way to do something, but I'm doing what I can. I like that all the clocks on the ship have accurate time because, like, right now this is the real time where I am. Um, I just think that's a really cool detail. So this is the bedroom of the cabin. I like the gold details. Very nice. And the carpet too. It's really cool because if you were to see this uh in 4K like I'm seeing it, you can almost see the fibers in the carpet. I could zoom in and show you the fibers as well, but I don't want to do that because then it doesn't quite return to the same aspect ratio as before. Or maybe it will. I don't know. I got a new mouse recently. Maybe the old mouse was just janky because I had to throw out my old mouse because the middle mouse button wasn't working, and that happens to be the same like scroll wheel that I use to zoom in and out of things. So maybe it was just the scroll wheel wasn't working. I don't know. I don't want to try it and then get the wrong aspect ratio when I try to go back. So cool. Um, Evan says, I hope in the further demo we can go to the bow of the ship. They're not doing any more demos, so this is the last demo. After this, it's the alpha. And so the alpha is the new game, and it's being built from the ground up, so it's not even complete like this is. It's just the bare steel of the ship. And so they're preparing to release the first alpha to people, and I think I'll download it. Well, wait, I forget how they have a rule about it. Maybe you have to be a member of their Patreon in order to see the alpha. I don't know. I'll have to look into it. Yeah, this is neat. Five Caps Film says, for a minute, it was saying that I needed to be subscribed to your channel for 20 minutes, but I've already been subscribed to your channel, so I'm not sure what was going on. Maybe a glitch or something. Are you saying that you weren't allowed to send a comment through the chat because you needed to be subscribed? Is that what you're saying? Or did it just say that, but you were still able to send a message? Dutch Liner says you can middle click to restore the original aspect ratio. Oh, really? Let's see. Let's go to a spot that I can use the zoom. That's close. And then middle click. Oh, neat. That's cool. Thank you. I didn't know that. That actually helps me a lot because now I can zoom into details and then like get back to the original aspect ratio I had. Nice. And I can get a wide view like this. Yeah. Then middle click. All right, that was cool. Okay, that was neat. Here you are at the Maids and Valets Saloon, where they all would have eaten. Huh, what is that? Maybe I'm in the wall or something. Oh, no, I don't think I was. All right. I have the mouse sensitivity turned way down because I've noticed like there's a few channels where people show off like games and stuff, and of course they have the mouse sensitivity way up so they can move around quickly, but then that results in me getting really seasick or something because they're like all the time with their mouse, and I didn't want to do that to you guys, so I have the mouse sensitivity turned way down so when I turn around and stuff it's much more smooth and doesn't freak you guys out. So Shimazu says it wouldn't let me send a message. Huh. Oh, okay. Five Camps Film says, what do you think of Miami Beach Art Deco? I'm not a fan. It's there's just something about it. Maybe it's the bright colors or something. I just don't like it. It's way too I don't know. It's way too flamboyant. Just like, not like in a not like in a prejudice way. I just mean that it's way too out there. It's way too in your face, all the colors and stuff. So I don't really like it. But if they weren't painted that color, if they were painted normal like building colors and stuff, I would enjoy them more because they have that streamline look to them, which is really cool. So, yeah, I can appreciate Miami Art Deco if it wasn't painted so brightly. Shimizu says, I want to play a few rounds of the ship on this map. Huh. Where should I go next? I'm hoping that, like, I can go somewhere that's, like, nearby because, when people say something like the potato room, I have to go literally just, like, across the ship And then next thing someone will say is, oh, let's see the third class dining room. And then I have to go all the way across the ship again. And, so it is quite a distance. This is the doctor's office and his private stateroom, which is pretty cool. They had something similar on the Queen Mary as well. And so, like, during the day, it served as his office, and they would just come in here and, they would get, I just discovered the crouch button. Have you ever heard of that game, Alex? The Ship. Oh, no, I haven't. Darius says you should check out the second class. I see many people overlooking it. Okay, there we go. There's a plan. Second class. Let's see if I remember how to get there. It's been a while. Okay. Going through it in my head. Yeah, there's something with my graphics card. It's working a lot better than usual, and it's like everything is so buttery smooth. It used to be a lot more glitchy for me. You guys probably don't notice it because I have a different software recording my screen, and it's not recording at 60 frames per second, all that kind of stuff. But and it's certainly not recording in 4K like I'm seeing the game. So you probably don't notice it, but I do. This looks incredible to me. All right, so we have to go down. Yeah, when I would come down the stairs before, I would have to, like, the game would stop halfway down while it loaded this room, and the fact that I didn't have to stop to come down here, something's running a lot better on my computer. I think when they were first built, they were painted white. Huh. Oh, the Miami Beach Art Deco. Okay, I was like, what was painted white? Um, Chris Surface says, "Hey Alex, what do you think of the recent release videos of HMHS Britannic of the inside of the ship? The recent release videos. I don't think I've seen it. I know that Titanic Honor and Glory had a Britannic game, and I did download that and play it a little bit, but I wasn't really that interested. Britannic isn't really all that interesting to me. But yeah. To be honest, I'm not really interested in Britannic all the way around. I really like Olympic. I like Titanic, but I never had an interest in Britannic. So we are on our way past the engine room, going over to second class. One of the two ways I know how to get here. Through this door. Oh, I see, Shimazu. That's weird. John Walters. Hello, John. All right. Sorry, I was reading comments. Okay, we can't go down there. We can go over here. This is the second class. Is this purser's? I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I think the purser's desk for second class. But also doubled as his cabin. Beds looked really small. You know, like, it's small even for twin size. That's why I don't think it's twin size, but I could be wrong. I don't know, but it just looks unusually small. Nice. Yeah, there's a lot of detail in this game. A lot of detail. Yeah. Okay. Where was I? All right. Okay. Chris says a bunch of divers went inside of HMHS Britannic. They got permission from the Greek government to go into the ship and take videos of the ship. Oh, really? I think I might have heard something about that. The captain's bunk in the SS Great Britain. I imagine. Yeah, I'll be seeing the Great Britain when I go uh, down to Bristol. How do I get? Try to remember how to get around this area. And then this way is third class, right? Head aft. Maybe it just means maybe this is just more second class. Yeah, it is more second class. Okay. Well, wait, if that was the pursers on the other side of that curtain, then what's this? This looks like a purser's desk. Huh. Oh, no, I was wrong. That was the chief steward. Okay, yeah. When I was over there and I thought that was the purser's desk, it was the chief steward. I forgot. Yeah, this is the purser's desk. Yeah. It looks like we can go down. I haven't been down here in a while. Usually, when I'm on this game, not very many people ask me to go to very many second class spaces. So I haven't seen some of this in quite a while. Let's see. Oh, that's a dead end. I don't remember if there's a second class cabin we can look at. I feel like I remember that they made it so there's at least one cabin in second class and one cabin in third class that you can look at. But I forget. You know what freaks me out about this game sometimes is like I feel like I'm gonna pass by a door and there's gonna be like something there waiting for me. Real creepy feeling. Oh, all right. Over this way. These must be toilet rooms. And these are cabins. Cabins upon cabins upon cabins upon cabins. Interesting. Yeah, the doors on Queen Mary often look, they had the same shape of doorknob, just like this. But on Queen Mary, they were all Bakelite or Roanoid, but it's the same thing. Let's go see some. Oh, wait. I always like doing this, going to the base of the staircase and looking up. Wow. Imagine there's like a face that goes through those bars and looks down at us. Creepy. All right. Let's. How did they do these? Aha. So they are octagonal, even the round parts, but they just smooth it out so that way you can't tell that the round parts are octagonal. They're very smart. I like all this tiger oak. Look at that. That tiger oak it's so rare. All right, let's go see some second class public spaces. Second class dining room. Really amazing dining room. Very much in the old style where the chairs are bolted into the floor and they swivel so you can get into them. Yeah, this game is so beautiful. Even to this day, I'm just surprised. I've never seen a game this beautiful before. How it looks so real. Let me check my comments real quick. If I kept film says, Alex, do you think Jack could have fit on the door? So that no, square footage, yes. Like there was enough square footage for him to have fit dimensionally onto it, but in terms of buoyancy, no, the door did not have enough buoyancy. It was definitely the buoyancy was definitely not even because one side of the door was higher out of the water than the other side, so it didn't even have the same evenness of buoyancy. But also, you know, James Cameron did a test of something that I had already suspected, which was even if he got on there with her, they would have both been partially submerged in water because again the door would not have had enough buoyancy to support them both completely out of the water, so they would have both been partially submerged in the water and would still have succumbed to hypothermia. So it would have been both of them dying. So in reality, Jack actually did save Rose because any other alternative would mean that they both would have died. All right, we are on C deck at the second class library, which doubles as a lounge. Or is it a lounge that doubles as a library? I forget which one. But anyway, I think they call this the library. It's just that they have very few books. This is a really neat room. I like this room. How did they do this? Wow, yeah, that's really... Okay, that's like a hexagon or octagon. Okay. And they just covered it with the thing. Yeah. Oh, I should have just, there we go. Really neat room. I wish I could see this in different like versions, like daytime, nighttime, that kind of stuff. Um, they had a version of the demo, an earlier version, where you could see things in like sunset or nighttime. Um, but they took that away for this version because they're coming up with Project 401, which is supposed to be a much more like interesting and detailed thing. So it's kind of like this demo, but it's more of a museum aspect. There's a lot more stuff you can learn from it, and it will include daytime, nighttime versions. Oh, wait, I should be going up, not down. As you can see, this is the base of uh, the aft mast, or the main mast, or whatever you want to call it. What's up here? Oh, right, okay. Sometimes I forget. Yeah, this is really neat. This whole area out here must be super high poly, and yet it loads in very quickly. I don't know how they did that. I'd contact them, like, you know, I've spoken to I think a few members of Titanic Honor and Glory before, but they're often all so busy that they don't always get, you know, to the emails and stuff. Sometimes the emails probably just get lost. So I would contact them and be like, hey, how did you guys do this? And how did you do that? But I just have this feeling like, you know, my email might get lost or something, and maybe they don't have time to answer, or maybe they don't want to answer, you know, like what if they don't want to get rid of their, you know, or give out their secrets, you know, like how they did stuff. But like I'd like to know because, you know, I'm building Disneyland in 3D, and I'd like to know how to do certain things. But otherwise, I'll have to learn it myself. This is the second class smoking room. This would have been a room only for men. Um, Real neat. And then we can kind of get a nice wide view of it this way. I like this room. I'm not usually a fan of green in interior decoration. I don't know why. You know, I like green in forests, but I just don't like green indoors. I don't know what it is. But even then, this room is really cool. The green somehow just works. I don't know how to explain it. It just works. Just reading some comments here. Oh wow. They were able to take some of the china and other things from Britannic. That's cool. Five Caps Film says I think Titanic only had regular oak. Oh, okay. Well, the like what's behind me. See, this is tiger oak. So even if Titanic itself only had regular oak, this is a PNG of tiger oak. These stripes give it away. So this is tiger oak. So maybe they used the wrong oak for this game, but that's tiger oak. Um, Chris Surface says Mythbusters did their own test with the door. They added 2 life vests under the door. Yeah, they did their own test, but James Cameron, if you watch the documentary that James Cameron did more recently, he said like there were things about the Mythbusters test that really didn't um it didn't what's the word? It didn't fully recreate the scene the way it should have been because they're, life vests are extremely buoyant and wood is not. Wood is not nearly as buoyant as life vests are and stuff like that. So, um and so yeah, there were things like that. So James Cameron recreated it by actually putting a wood door, like in the water, and they had to use the buoyancy of that alone, and they were able to keep the woman that was playing the part of Rose out of the water, but they couldn't keep the one playing Jack out of the water. And they even tried a way to see if like Jack and Rose had taken their own life vests off, because remember the life vests that Rose would have worn in on Titanic was made of cork and not modern uh life vest buoyancy materials. It would have been made of cork, which is buoyant, more buoyant than like regular wood is, but it's still not nearly as buoyant as modern life vests. So they had her take the cork life vest off and put it underneath the door, but it barely made a difference. It barely made a difference. And so yeah, I trust James Cameron's experiment more because I saw it and I was like, you know what? He made a good point. Like the Mythbusters, they didn't accurately recreate the scene. It wasn't accurate. So yeah. Five Caps Film says, is cork the stuff they used in alcohol bottles? Uh yeah, cork is still to this day used to plug bottles of like wine and stuff like that. They put a cork in the top of the bottle, and cork is the bark of a cork tree. Literally, like it grows. It's a very spongy bark, very spongy, and it grows right off of a cork tree. And what they do is during certain seasons, they will strip the bark off the cork tree, and then that gets ground up into tiny bits and then glued together into whatever shape they need to make cork into. But cork is bark from a cork tree. Funny little thing, because I had learned that because there is a cork tree in Disneyland, and one time they actually needed to harvest some of the cork off of it because the tree was developing a type of fungus underneath the cork. And so they were like, we want to save this tree. It's a very old tree. It's been here since the park first opened. So they had to harvest the cork off the tree in order to save the tree. So just a little fun fact for you guys. Let's go another level up. I still haven't drank any of my coffee. We're on A deck, but there's nothing here for second class on A deck because it's surrounded by first class. So we have to keep going. And we end up coming up to the boat deck. Whee! I love it up here because it's the sunlight and everything. It looks so real. I mean, there are times where you look at something very closely and you're like, oh, this is a video game. But sometimes you look at something at the right angle and it looks so real. Um, Shimizu, yeah, I know about that. I thought that was pretty funny when I learned about that. I'm like, oh, they cut it because they thought people would know that Jack just really wouldn't fit on the door without it dumping them out. But yeah, that's pretty funny. Five Caps Film says, wasn't the Atchison Topeka Santa Fe Railway Disneyland Railroad's sponsor? It was, yes. Where'd that question come from? Um, that's such a random question. Yes, it was Disneyland. It was a sponsor of the Disneyland Railroad from 1955 until 1974. And the reason why was because in 1974, the Santa Fe Railroad was trying to shed its old fashioned history of steam locomotives and trying to shine a light on its modern diesel services. So they told Disneyland, if you want us to keep sponsoring, you'll have to get rid of the steam locomotives and replace them with modern day diesels, and you can make them, 5/8 scale like the rest of the Disneyland Railroad, but they have to be diesel. And Disney was like, yeah, we're not doing that. Walt liked his steam locomotives. That's what he was all about. And so they had to part ways. And literally the very next day, all of the emblems for Santa Fe, all that stuff, all the signage for Santa Fe, everything was removed off the Disneyland Railroad and repainted to just say Disneyland Railroad the next day. So it's an interesting little fun fact for you. It's interesting because I heard, so there's a set of whistles on all four of Titanic's funnels. And I heard that only the first two sets of whistles were real. The last two on these last two funnels were fake. But if that's so, why is there a steam pipe leading all the way up to it? If these whistles were fake and just there for decoration, why would they be connected to steam? So I'm starting to think that all four whistles were real. Yeah. Where should we go, folks? Where should we go? Five Caps Film says you were talking about the Disneyland tree. Yeah, about cork. uh, Blame Ward Kimball for Disney's love of trains. Ward Kimball got Walt Disney interested in model railroading, but Walt was already interested in trains before that. His uncle uh, had run steam locomotives for the Santa Fe Railway, and and uh, and Walt was around trains all the time. He loved trains. It was just that Ward Kimball got him interested in building model railroads and operating steam locomotives at home. That's what Ward did. Yeah, this whole view is amazing. This looks so real. To me, at least. Some people might say, oh, it still looks like a video game. I don't know. But to me, this looks real. I feel like I'm actually there if it wasn't for the fact that I'm looking at this through a TV screen. What's interesting about these? So, if you look carefully at these benches, and there's this beautiful design and all that, swirly and whatever. Um, these benches were also on Olympic as well. Now, there's an interesting thing where Cunard and White Star eventually merged and built the Queen Mary. And the interesting thing was that in 1935, when they had retired Olympic, they started scrapping it, but they kept a lot of the benches and moved them onto different Cunard ships. And when the Queen Mary went into service, she had a lot of Olympics benches. We only have so far, at least me and my friend Shiloh, we only have one picture, one photograph evidence of the benches on the Queen Mary. But we believe that the benches are somewhere in the Queen Mary's archives. Maybe not the wood slats, because the wood would have rotted out by now. We believe that these end pieces made of bronze, we believe that those are still on the Queen Mary, and they're somewhere in storage, because we're pretty sure we've seen them just laying around, like up against a wall or something. But isn't that cool? There is likely Olympics benches still on the Queen Mary. Can you believe that? I think I mentioned that. Maybe. I can't remember if I. You know what? When I go back to the Queen Mary this year, because I've already booked a room for a few nights on the Queen Mary. When I go later this year, I'll tell the management, because I've spoken to a lot of the management on the Queen Mary, and they kind of know me now and stuff like that. So I'm gonna talk to them and be like, hey, somewhere you guys have Olympics benches. So I don't think they know they do. That's the thing. I don't think they know they do. All right. So Five Caps Film says many inland steam plants have something called a demineralization plant. Did Queen Mary or even Titanic have anything like that? Titanic, I don't know. You see, on ships it would have been called a water softening plant, and on Queen Mary it did have a water softening plant. On Queen Mary it was located just forward of Boiler Room 1, and it worked overtime. It was always working on the ship. But Titanic, Olympic, I don't know if they had a water softening plant. Oh, somebody said let's go to the forecastle. So you can't go to the forecastle on this model. Yeah, you can't. I wish you could. We can go to the stern. There's kind of a complicated way of getting there. I have to remember how to do it. How do I get down there? You have to go. No, I think that's first class down there, isn't it? No, that's second class. Okay. Let's try to go down to the stern. I think it's on this deck. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Evan Shipcott says, can we see the first class lounge? Yeah, I'll have to circle back around there later. Shimizu says, I have a chunk of deck wood from Olympic. I treasure it. I also have wood from the first Mauritania and one of QE2's turbine blades. Oh, wow. That's pretty crazy. Five Cats Film says, I think Queen Mary might have many more of Olympics artifacts. I heard that somewhere, and it makes sense. Yes, it does have. Queen Mary does have a lot more of Olympics artifacts. Um, like somewhere in their archives, they have things like salt shakers and stuff that actually came from Olympic. They have serving trays, that the silver serving trays that stewards would have used on Olympic. They have a whole bunch of different stuff, and the thing is that the people currently at Queen Mary don't always know what every one of those items are. They know that they're Cunard property or even White Star property, but they don't necessarily know that it's, from Olympic. I was trying to lean far over to see the uh, propellers. Yep, here we are on the stern deck. We have the docking bridge. This provides one of the coolest views on the ship. It looks so real. I'm telling you, it's like photorealistic. It's crazy. Shimazu said Titanic had desalinization, but no softener per se, if I remember correctly. Okay. Lachlan says, hey, Alex, would you ever consider doing a video on different countries? My hometown, Sydney, Australia, has a lot of history. I would consider it, yes. But the thing is in order to make videos, I need a lot of imagery. I need a lot of footage. And I mean a lot of it. Especially if it's history, I need a lot in order to make a video. Otherwise, it's just a slideshow with me talking over it. And so that's just not very fun for people. But yeah, I would need a lot of it. And that's kind of the biggest issue, is that finding enough images to put on screen is difficult, especially because a lot of footage and stuff is privately owned, and those people protect their historic footage with oh my gosh, they really protect it. They just they're willing to sue you if you use it. And so that's been the toughest situation so far, is trying to make history videos with historic footage in order to make the videos interesting for my viewers. And then trying not to get copyrighted for it, it's so difficult. It's really difficult. And it's even more maddening when people on TikTok steal my work and then post it all over TikTok pretending, that they made it. And it makes me mad because it's like, I made it. I worked hard to put that together, not you. But anyway, that's a different subject altogether. But yeah. This is the third class lounge. I don't know why I said first class. Third class lounge. What are people saying? Five Caps Film says, when Disney arbitrarily removed the equipment on the stern of Queen Mary, I wonder what they did with it. My guess is it was destroyed. Most of it was destroyed. A lot of it was, there were some things that were sold off. There is a person out there who has some of the deck equipment in their collection. Um, but most of it was literally scrapped and sold off. Like, it's really crazy. Disney removed that stuff. I mean, you could argue it was arbitrary, but what they were trying to do was they were trying to install a swimming pool on the stern of the Queen Mary. And, oh, that's interesting. The cigar was not lit when I came in the room, and so it just barely started smoking right when I walked up to it. Usually when I walk up to this thing, it's been already smoking. It's just like part of the programming or something. But it started right as I walked up to it. That's crazy. Let's see if there's another one that does it. Ah, no, that one's been going already. I like details like that, you know. I know there's no one here right now, but it's like I like the detail. All right, let's go back to first class. What is that? There's a door that's open there. How do I get in there? Oh, okay, that's just one of the lobbies. Okay, I've already been in there. All right. 5 Cap Swim says, you know, it's crazy. It's already 2026. The beginning of 2025 felt like it was yesterday. I know. The year went by so fast. Shimizu, thank you so much. Oh my gosh. I can't stop people from stealing your stuff, but I can send you a pick me up. Thank you for working so hard for us, Alex. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Shimizu. Yeah. It's definitely. And I have to work even harder this year because I'm going on that European trip and I'm also going back to the original Queen Mary. I'm going to be spending a lot of money, and so I need to try to make up for that by producing a lot more videos. So I have to work even harder this year. But you know, it's still fun to make content. Um, I put out a podcast the other day. I think it was yesterday actually. Um, about kind of me and Shiloh's thoughts on the uh, the video that Bright Sun Travels made of his stay on the Queen Mary, and we shared some of our thoughts. But after I put out the video, the podcast, I mean, I was kind of like, well, you know, we didn't keep our thoughts very concise, and we had a lot more important. See, this is all glitchy again. This is what I normally see. It's all like glitchy. It wasn't like that earlier in the game. So now there's definitely something going on. Oh, right, back to the. So anyway, so I was like, well, you know, I had much more important points to make about that video, and I didn't get to really express that in the podcast. And so a lot of people went into the comments and were like, well, you know, this, and that, and this is like, you know, they're explaining things away, and I was kind of like, okay, I can see how my point doesn't really look that that important, but I did have much more important points to make about it. So I'm kind of like, all right, well, I think next week I'm gonna release like an actual point by point video about just some things I want to make clear. And you know, I it's very difficult because if you generally as a YouTuber, if you make any kind of video that disagrees with the point of view of a much more popular YouTuber, you know, the YouTuber, they can be very understanding. You know, they understand what you're going for. They understand what you're all about. But the viewers don't. They think you're attacking, their favorite YouTuber. And it's like, no, like, like I kind of know Jake. I'm not like necessarily in his friend circle or anything like that. I don't know him that well, but I have spoken to him a few times and he's a nice guy. He follows my channel, I follow his channel. It's a good, kind of start. And we're good acquaintances, I guess you could say. Um but in the podcast, simply just disagreeing with some of the things that he said about the Queen Mary made a lot of the viewers that watched it kind of come in, and they were literally saying that that it was an attack on him. And I'm like, this isn't an attack. It's just sharing an opposite opinion. Like it's not like I'm sitting there bad mouthing him or something. Like I was just expressing like, oh, well, this isn't the case. Like, like in his video, he said that none of the rooms on the Queen Mary have air conditioning. But that's just simply, not the case. There is air conditioning in the rooms on the Queen Mary. And even the rooms that don't have air conditioning, they receive their air conditioning secondhand through the hallways because not every room on the ship could have air conditioning installed. So in the 1970s, they made it so the air conditioning was force draft air conditioning, which means that it was pushed through the different rooms. And so that's how you got ventilation in the Queen Mary's rooms that didn't have ventilation. So things like that. And so it is difficult because I would like to set the record straight with certain things, because for one thing, I've worked very hard these last 5 years to dispel any misinformation about the Queen Mary. And unfortunately, his video got a few things wrong, simply because he just didn't know. He just didn't know. I don't blame him. He just didn't know. But if you make any kind of disagreement with a popular YouTuber, their fans will come after you and be like, "Don't you attack him?" and blah blah blah. And it's like, it's not an attack to disagree with someone's opinion, So yeah, it's really weird. Five Caps Film says, sorry, just thinking about how Disney has mistreated the Queen Mary. Stuff they did was really awful. Yeah. I've talked about how Disney treated the Queen Mary, and it's funny because people remember that so differently. Some people, such as yourself, they can see the damage that Disney did. But then other people go, oh, look at all the great stuff Disney did to the Queen Mary. They got it refreshed and whatever. Yeah, Disney, paint and polished it. That's what they do. They paint and polish everything. But restoration? No. Disney did not do any restoration. They covered things up with paint and polish to make it look shiny and new again. But that really hid the underlying issues. And Disney never did any restoration. They didn't do any, I think they were involved in some things that you could probably call restoration. Like they opened certain rooms up again and used them for different purposes. And yeah, I guess if those rooms had remained closed, you might say that they were neglected, but technically a paint and polish is not restoration. It's just, it's just shining up something that was not working, And so let's go to the main lounge. And so, yeah, Disney definitely did some damage to the Queen Mary, and they would have done even more damage. And it's funny because there's so many Queen Mary haters out there who are like, "Oh, I wish Disney would have just did what they wanted to do with Queen Mary and, and whatever." Like, they say it because they know that it makes Queen Mary fans angry. And I try not to feed into it because I'm like, you know what? I'm like, you're just here to cause a ruckus. You don't care about the Queen Mary. You don't pretend like you do. And, yeah, there's just people out there who they just like to stir the pot, They just like to stir the pot. And that's what they do with Queen Mary fans. Because what they do is they come into the comment section and they go rust bucket this, rust bucket that, Not even like making intelligent conversation. It's one thing if you're to say, oh, well, due to this, and this, and this year, and this, and that, in that year, we can say that the Queen Mary is basically a rust bucket. Like, they don't do that. They don't use logic. They just go, oh, the rust bucket this, and the rust bucket that, and it's like they do it because they think it's like trigger words that will make like Queen Mary fans really angry. And yeah, some Queen Mary fans get angry, but the important thing is that I always value intelligent conversation over just using trigger words to make people angry. So, Shimazu says, is your GPU overheating by some chance? There's a possibility. I don't notice any overheating. But there is a possibility because at the moment I'm playing the game, so I can't really see what's happening with my GPU. I do know that it's the fan on the GPU is definitely blowing hard, but it always does that when I play this game. So, I don't really know if it's any, if it's like near meltdown or anything like that. On his video, someone commented how the Queen Mary used taxpayer money. I commented back stating that they didn't use taxpayer money and they used other sources. I want to help the ship in any way I can. Thank you. I am glad that you did respond to that person because it's true. The Queen Mary does not use any taxpayer money. She never has. She's always used money from the Tidelands Fund. So whenever you hear, oh, Long Beach invests another $1 million in the Queen Mary, it's not taxpayer money. It's Tidelands Fund. And the Tidelands Fund is not fed by taxpayers. It's fed by the oil fracking operations that Long Beach and other coastal cities take part in the state of California. With the profits they earn from the oil fracking operations, they put that into a fund that helps to fund coastal properties and things to keep the coasts clean and whatnot. And like, let's say Long Beach has like waterfront property that's falling into disrepair. California doesn't like that. So California would be like, hey, Long Beach, you need to fix this. And so if Long Beach doesn't want to spend taxpayer money on like something that might be super expensive, they can request to use money from the Tidelands Fund to fix that. And the funny thing is that the Queen Mary is considered a building, and she's not considered a ship anymore. She's considered a building. And because she's a building on the waterfront, she falls into the category of, and because she's owned by the city and not a privately owned ship, she falls into the Tidelands Fund category. So they often will request Tidelands Fund money to restore the Queen Mary. And so that's where that money comes from. And then, of course, there are two different nonprofits that help raise funds for the Queen Mary as well. So sometimes the funds come from those nonprofits, but the money that they raise is not in the millions. It's really more like in the tens of thousands. So they do smaller projects, but yeah. So I'm glad that you stood up and said, hey, look, they don't use taxpayer money, because that's one of the biggest things that people like to say against the Queen Mary is they just go like, oh, that thing is a money pit, and I don't want my taxpayer dollars going towards it. And it's like, well, you don't have anything to say about it because your taxpayer money is not going towards it. You know? So Lachlan says, my sailing club was built in mid-century style in 1964 next to Botany Bay, Sydney. Unfortunately, it was still renovated in the 90s. Unfortunately, it was renovated in the 90s and lost a lot of its character. It recently went under a $12 million or 12 million renovation. So it'd be Australian dollars. 12 million renovation. Wow, that's crazy. Shimazu says, 5 caps films. Since she belongs to the city of Long Beach, I'm sure she has used city money at times. Oh no. No, it definitely hasn't. Oh yeah, Shimazu says, related to my comment about tax money, I stand very corrected and educated. Yeah, no. No taxpayer money has gone on the Queen Mary. It's all Tideland's fund. Because the thing is that actually by law, the city cannot use taxpayer money on the Queen Mary. There's actually a law against it. And the reason why is because the Queen Mary is a private business and Long Beach is not allowed to run a private business, which is why they contract out Evolution Hospitality to run the Queen Mary, because the city literally cannot hire city paid people to run the ship. And they also cannot use taxpayer money to restore a private business. So yeah, they can't use taxpayer money by law. They have to use other means. And the Queen, that's one of the things that makes the Queen Mary so unique too, because people have said, well, why couldn't the same thing happen for SS United States that happened for Queen Mary? They say, like, why couldn't SS United States be bought by a city and taken care of by a city and all that? And it's because the Queen Mary had such a unique situation. It was bought by the city. I think, let's see. Yeah, the city used Tideland's fund to buy the Queen Mary. Which you could argue that's not honest. I will give you that. If you want to say, because the city bought the Queen Mary in 1967 with $3.45 million of Tideland's fund money. Is that ethical? Probably not. It's probably not honest or ethical. But the idea was that Long Beach wanted to develop their they wanted to boost their economy by turning it into a tourist attraction. Not just the Queen Mary, but their city into a tourist attraction. They wanted to boost their economy. So under that guise, they said, well, we're going to buy the Queen Mary, and that's what will boost our economy. And so that's the excuse they used for using Tideland's fund money. Was it ethical? Probably not. But that was 58 years ago. And, I think by now we can say the past is the past. Right now we just got to deal with, the present. But, man, this is a beautiful room, you guys. I love this room. Jeez. I love everything. I even love the floor, which is totally weird because the floor looks very trippy. Normally if this floor was anywhere else, I'd say, yeah, I don't like it. But there's just something about the combination of the green furniture, the floor, and the wood paneling. It just goes together somehow. I can't explain it. It just goes together. I don't know how it works. 5 Caps Film says the ship literally has done So much for the US, especially in World War II. She deserves absolute respect. So when people make lies, it just doesn't feel right. So it's good to correct and call out the lies. I agree. Somebody today said to me, why are you defending the Queen Mary? He goes like, you really shouldn't. It's not right. The Queen Mary doesn't need someone to defend it and blah, blah, blah. And, whatever. And I was like, did I respond to them? I don't think I responded to them, but I wanted to respond to them. I wanted to say to them, the thing is that in this country, we spend a lot of money on our national monuments. Taxpayer money goes into taking care of national monuments. Even things like the Statue of Liberty, which was not built by American hand. It was built by the French, but it was a gift to us, and it represents, what our country should be, which is a land of liberty. And that's why we keep it, because it's a reminder of who we are and who we should be. And we spend a lot of money on the Statue of Liberty, and I don't think there are too many people out there who would disagree with us spending all that money to take care of the Statue of Liberty. I think most Americans are more than happy to spend their taxpayer money on that. I am. But we have a lot of monuments in this country to things that are, American. And so the thing is like a lot of people don't understand just how American the Queen Mary is, just how important the Queen Mary is to American history, especially for all of what the Queen Mary did in World War II. I mean, granted, most of Queen Mary's passengers were Americans, but if let's go the opposite direction. Back into the thing. Most of Queen Mary's passengers were American, but that's not really much of an American achievement. But what the Queen Mary did in World War II was, it carried mostly American troops. Out of the 850,000 troops that the Queen Mary carried across the world in World War II, over 500,000 of them were American. And the Queen Mary was, at a short period of time, requisitioned by the War Department in the United States. And for a couple of months, the Queen Mary, while it did Operation Bolero, was under the command of the United States. And so, in a way, for a short period of time, the Queen Mary was part of our American military fleet for a short time. So, but there's just a lot more. There's a lot more things that make it so much more important to America, especially the fact that the Queen Mary was credited by Winston Churchill for helping to shorten the war by a year. And that benefits Americans because that's 1 year less of Americans who would have died or been injured in World War II. The Queen Mary saved us a year of more heartache, a year of more tragedy. It saved us a year of more risk. The risk that, if for some reason the Axis forces had won or something, we have that to thank the Queen Mary. So the Queen Mary is just as much American as it is British. The only thing is that, and I know that the city of Long Beach, they have tried to apply for monument status. And the reason why is because the city of Long Beach, they love the Queen Mary, but they don't want to take care of it. Ultimately, they would like someone else to do that. But they can't. Everyone who's tried to take care of it just didn't know how. And it's led to this situation. But the city of Long Beach was like, look, we want to get the Queen Mary a national monument status, so that way the United States federal government will take care of the ship as a national monument. I don't think that's ever going to happen. I mean, if it did, I'd be super surprised. But I don't think that's ever going to happen. but they tried it nevertheless because they're like, look, we like having the ship here, we just don't want to take care of it. You know, and they're a city, you know, like they would like someone else to take care of the ship and benefit from the ship just being there, you know, which is fine. You know, Anaheim benefits from Disneyland being there, and Anaheim doesn't have to pay for Disneyland. You know, Disneyland is operated by a company that pays for itself. So it's the same kind of thing. Long Beach wants someone else to take care of the Queen Mary. That way, Long Beach can just worry about, you know, getting the benefits of having the Queen Mary there. Pretty cool. I like all these views from the bow of the ship. Okay. Ozzy says, so the sub is getting pulled out in March this year? What? No. I mean, well, maybe. Did they announce that? I'm not aware of any announcement about that. But I do know that very soon, or someday soon, they were going to make announcements, major announcements about what's happening around the ship. Maybe I missed it. Maybe I missed a city hall meeting, or because I know that Mayor Rex Richardson was going to give a State of Long Beach report. Did I miss it? I don't know. But as far as I know, at this very moment, because I haven't heard any news today, but as far as I know, the submarine will be gotten rid of at the end of 2026 or early 2027. I personally haven't heard anything about it happening in March, but please correct me if I'm wrong. If there's an announcement or something, I'd love to know about it because I haven't heard anything. Shimizu says, I just know that the smoking carpet is going to screw with my eyes when I play the actual game. Yeah. Lachlan says, would be great if on the bridge they could make some things more interactive. RE install bells on telegraphs, make the phones in the engine room work again. Could be fun to talk to each other. Yeah, that'd be pretty fun. Lachlan says, where did the Queen Mary get the first refit for 221 done? What about the second? I heard someone say it was in Sydney. Refit for 221? Could... What? Wait. Oh, wait. First World War II refit, I mean. Oh, where do they get the first? Oh, so the first World War II refit was done in oh man, what? Oh man, I just had it in my head. Singapore. Singapore. So there was a dock in Singapore where the Queen Mary did the first refit for World War II, and then it finished its first refit in Sydney, Australia. And then the Queen Mary got another refit, I want to say 2 years later, in Boston. Yes, Boston, United States. Got another refit, and that allowed the Queen Mary to carry even more troops. But it got its first refit in two different cities, in Singapore for the first half of the first refit, and the second half of the first refit was done in Sydney. Shimazu says, don't forget the Queen Mary is also credited with shortening the war. Yes, the Queen Elizabeth was the other ship credited with shortening the war. But however, the Queen Elizabeth is already gone, and we only have the Queen Mary. So the point I was trying to make was that the Queen Mary is important to the United States because it was credited with helping shorten the war by a year. But I didn't include the Queen Elizabeth in that information because the Queen Elizabeth's gone and we don't really have it. So um Five Caps Home says, can you go to the boilers? Sure, I can go to the boilers. They Ozzy says that the post to talk about the sub in March of this year. They made a post? You know, I'm going to have to... I want to check the internet, but I I can't because I'm doing this live stream. Spoilers, right? Okay. So let's get back inside. Go past here. I think I have to go through here. I keep forgetting I have coffee right here. I'm like sitting here going, wow, I feel so tired and sluggish, but I literally have a cup of coffee right here I haven't been drinking. Okay. Let's see. It's getting really laggy being in this part of the staircase. Oh, now it's smoothing out now. Okay. Okay, I think I have to go to... Yeah, I have to go to the forward staircase next in order to get there. 5 Caps Films says something I just realized. Of all Titanic first class public room have bay windows. I like that. What? Oh, right, yeah. Yeah, the public rooms have bay windows. Lachlan says, do you know if the QE fixtures and furniture was saved before she was taken to Hong Kong? I saw some QE furniture on sale on eBay. So a lot of the furniture on Queen Elizabeth was auctioned off. I'm not going to say all of it, but a lot of it was auctioned off when the Queen Elizabeth went to Florida. And anything that was left on the ship, which there was still a lot, was taken with the ship to Hong Kong, and it was going to be reused. So, CY Tung, he was planning to reuse a lot of the furniture that was still there. And as usual, I must tell people, CY Tung did not burn the Queen Elizabeth for insurance money. For one thing, he never received $1 of insurance money. But for another thing, he genuinely cared about the Queen Elizabeth. He genuinely really loved that ship and wanted to have it as part of his fleet. He was very proud of it. It was going to become the first, university at sea. And it's not like that was a scam either, because after the Queen Elizabeth burned, he ended up having to find another old ship and convert that. It's not like he used, it's not like he was going to use the money to buy some brand new ship and use that as the new university. He really was proud of the Queen Elizabeth. And when it had burned, he was so visibly distraught and depressed. People around him said that he was shattered, just utterly shattered. He was visibly depressed because he felt like he was the next custodian of the ship. And by it burning, he felt like he failed everybody. He was very distraught. And so much so that Her Majesty, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, had sent him a letter offering her condolences for the loss of the ship to Mr. C.Y. Tung. And And he kept that letter. And he later made two memorials for the Queen Elizabeth. The first memorial it featured information and the letters from the Queen Elizabeth bow. So it said QE. It was the bow letters, and that was a huge stainless steel plaque that was placed in his building in New York, and it's still in that building. The other memorial was done at one of his buildings in Beverly Hills, and it was yet another. It was a copy. It was a copy of that stainless steel plaque, and it was one of the ship's anchors. I think it was the spare anchor. The spare anchor was on display outside his building in Beverly Hills. And then that building, eventually in the 1980s, when it had to be converted into something else, they moved the spare anchor and the memorial to trying to figure out which door it is. They moved it to the city of Torrance because there was a new business that opened up in Torrance, and they received it. And so to this day, what is over here? So to this day, in the city of Torrance, there is a memorial for the Queen Elizabeth, and it features her spare anchor. And actually, there is a plan to completely restore that memorial and expand it. But I didn't tell you that, okay? I didn't tell you that. But there is a huge plan to restore the memorial and to expand it. But you didn't hear it from me. Yeah. Okay, so let's continue to find the boiler room. I never know which door it is because it's not even labeled. Is it one of these? Yeah, okay. But one of these is number 6. Is it this one? Yeah, there we go. I have to remember that it's the rooms where the door doesn't come all the way down. I have to remember that. Lachlan. No, I'm not married. All right. So 5 Caps Film says cruise ships look very horrendous next to the Queen Mary. Yeah, they do. In comparison, those cruise ships just don't look. They don't have the beauty that Queen Mary has. There's so much detail in this boiler room. I love it. See, we can go up above the boilers. Let me see where's the walkway. Oh, it's right here in the middle. Ah. So here we are in between the boilers, up above them. Pretty cool, if you ask me. And you can see the braces where the boilers are braced against the side of the ship. So that way when the ship is rolling, the boilers don't start rolling. Ooh, I like this. There's a plume of steam coming out here. Oh, that looks so real. How did they do that? That looks like real steam. How have I never noticed this before? That looks like real steam, you guys. Oh, wow. I have to figure out how we can put that in the Disneyland game, because we're doing the Disneyland Railroad. And you can find, like, you know, fake plumes of steam and stuff like that and try to program it into your game. But this looks like real steam. That's really cool. I could probably sit here for like 10 more minutes and stare at that, but I really should try to get back down to the lower level of the boiler room. Furnaces. Yeah, the furnaces. Okay, so they have okay, so they have some realistic smoke kind of slightly billowing out. Yeah, there's a lot of detail here. I love this. I love all the detail. Okay, so let's see what the comments are saying. Shimizu says, can't imagine how hot that would have been right above the boilers. Oh man, yeah, that would have been incredible. Oh, Five Cat Film says, what are those things on top of the boilers that look like whistles? Those are oh, what do you call them? I think those are kind of like, they're kind of like pop valves, I think. Yeah, like if the boiler overpressurizes, they would know because it would pop open and I think it would whistle and they would know. It's kind of like an emergency, because they have gauges that tell them what the pressure in the boiler is. So they know by the gauges. But if for some reason, if for some reason, you know, someone's not paying attention to the gauges, or maybe if like, you know, if like the gauge is broken and it's stuck in the same position or something, then the boiler will overpressurize and it'll release those pop valves, and that'll sound kind of like a whistle. It'll whistle very loudly, and then they'll know what to do to kind of bleed some of the pressure from the boilers. Oh, here we go. Yeah, this is one of the pressure gauges of the boiler. Or at least I think it is, because it says 150, but I think these boilers went over 150 in pressure. I'm pretty sure these boilers did way more than 150. They had to have done like 200 or something. But yeah. So that's what those are. Those were pop valves. They have those on steam locomotives. They have pop valves. And when they pop, they hiss really loudly. Really, really loudly. Five Cap Film says, any news on the synagogue restoration? I have no news currently, but I am sending my friend Chris to the Queen Mary to do some overall investigating, because every year I do a annual restoration update on the Queen Mary. And so what I do is I send Chris there, and he walks around the entire ship with me on a phone call, and we inspect the ship. Literally inspect it from top to bottom. looking for various things that are being done, checking for changes. And then of course we check up on projects that have been undergoing and see where they're at now. So I will be sending him later this month. I hope he has the availability to go. But I'll be sending him later this month, and yeah. So we'll find out. We'll find out what the case is. It'll be hard to know because there's no windows into the synagogue. So if the door is shut, we can't see what's inside. We don't know what stage they're at. But I do know that right now, so this might be a good clue as to what's happening. But right now, the focus is on the long gallery, because right now the long gallery is currently being restored. I don't know about 100% restored. I'm not gonna, I don't want people to think like, oh, it's gonna look exactly like it did, in 1936 or something, or even 1968, because I don't know to what extent the restoration will go. But what I can tell you is that it's happening, and they are currently in the process of knocking down the walls that divide it up and trying to combine the space into one large space. So that's the priority right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe the synagogue is on hold while they work on the long gallery. And yeah, we'll see. If we have any luck, it'd be really cool if by the 90th anniversary of the maiden voyage, which is in May, hopefully the long gallery and the synagogue will be restored in time for the 90th anniversary. That would be really cool, because we need those rooms back. We need them back. I like this little maze. It's like it doesn't need to be here, but it's here, and I love it. All right, let's check out more of the crew areas. I think we have to go up here. Let me just check the comments again. Shimazu says, I believe Titanic's boilers operated at 215 psi. Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds about like what I thought it was. Shimizu says, I see a firebox door and I want to grab a shovel and start working. 5Cat Film says, I remember during your New Orleans stream, I thought Chris was your dad. Well, I thought your dad's name was Chris. No, Chris is my friend. My dad's name is Joe. He's been on my live streams a few times. In the past, not recently. Captain Sparrow says, when will the Titanic Honor and Glory release, and when is he going to look? I might meet him there. I don't tell people about where me or my friends will be ahead of time, because I get a lot of death threats and violence threats, so I don't want to put me or my friends in any kind of danger, so I don't tell people where I am going or where I am before I'm there. I usually tell them either when I'm already there or after I've left. So Unfortunately, I don't do that. I used to do meetups with fans and with viewers of the channel. We used to do stuff like that years ago, but ever since I started getting death threats and stuff, I can't do it anymore. You know, this world, this society has really changed. You know, some people say, "Oh, nothing's changed." No, it has changed. You know, there was a time where you could be a YouTuber and randomly meet up with people and have fun and whatever, you know, but now there's so many people who just give out like death threats and stuff over the littlest things. Someone threatened my life uh simply because like they disagreed with the fact that I made videos on ocean liners. I was like, "What?" Like, I don't even understand the logic behind that. There is no logic behind that. You know, you have to be freaking crazy to threaten someone over something like that. Just because I make videos about ocean liners. Like, what does that even mean, you know? Like, so yeah, unfortunately, that's why I don't do any kind of meetups or whatever. Just because, frankly, we live in a crazy world now, and I don't want to put me or my friends in any kind of danger. I keep forgetting what's up here. There we go. Couldn't figure out for a second there why it wasn't working. Okay. Okay, I think I know where we are. There's one of the trash chutes or rubbish chutes. And here we get to the level below the forecastle. So this is the closest we'll get to the forecastle deck because it's not the upper level is not accessible in this game. But we can walk right up to this area, which is called the windlass room. This is where all the windlass gear is. Helps with warping and mooring the ship. So Queen Mary has one of these rooms as well. A lot of ships do. Will your train go up to 88 miles per hour like Doc Brown's Bird of Prey? No. Chris the Cookie Man. Yeah, Chris the Cookie Man. That's who it is. PAA 1927 says, "Do you have a suit packed for Queen Mary 2 trip with afternoon tea or captain's night?" I forget what it's called. I will eventually have some nice like clothes packed for that. Maybe not a full suit, but there will be a nice. I'm gonna like buy some nice clothes, like a nice jacket, some nice button-up shirts, that kind of stuff. Some nice, you know, some nice slacks and stuff like that. But I'm gonna buy all that later because this year I'm gonna be spending this year trying to lose some weight and also get into some kind of physical shape because when I get to Europe, there's gonna be a lot of walking, like a lot of walking across the cities and stuff like that because, you know, I'm not gonna take like a ride share from location to location. Like these areas are easy enough to walk to if you can walk the distance. Um, so I'm probably gonna be losing some weight, and any clothes that fit me right now probably won't fit me later this year. So up until then, I'm just gonna be working on losing some weight, and then closer to the trip, I'm gonna buy an all new set of clothes, even new luggage because we need luggage. We don't have the kind of luggage we need for traveling. But I'm gonna buy some new luggage, buy a bunch of stuff I need, probably even buy a new camera because the camera that I currently have is not good enough for a trip like this. I will use my current camera as backup, you know, for like when I need to film other stuff, you know. but I'm going to buy a new camera. So lots of stuff will be done in preparation for the UK trip. I'm looking into the different hotels I'll be staying at. So like I've already booked the ship to get there, but I will be looking at the different hotels for when I get there. I found one hotel for a cool place um in Edinburgh. What's it called? Fugal? It's a small ship, a very small ship that is a luxury hotel. I was kind of looking into it because it looks really neat. The only problem is that it's a luxury ship and it might be completely out of my price range. But I'm gonna try because it looks really neat and it's definitely a tourist attraction of its own. And in a way, it is kind of cost effective because it also gives you like free tickets to the Royal Yacht Britannia, and breakfast is also included with your stay. So, I'm thinking it might be really uh, smart to stay at that hotel, but we'll see. I just hope I have the money for it. Because the trip is already going to be expensive enough trying to go there. But I think it's possible. It's interesting. I'm looking at the way my character collides with objects because I have a feeling that Titanic Honor and Glory didn't have to program this collision. I have a feeling that Unreal Engine already does the collisions, which helps me a lot with my game because that way I don't have to program all the collisions in. So in case you're wondering how this room works, uh, this is a capstan. This is for winding rope around it, and it moves mechanically. It rotates mechanically to wind up or unwind the ropes, which help with mooring. And on the deck above us, the forecastle deck, there are other capstans as well. And in fact, so let's see. This is a capstan, but this thing, which is much more robust, is actually the windlass for the anchor chains. So there's two of them because there's two anchor chains, and these help pull up or release the anchors. So that's why they're so robust. But basically, all this machinery is driven by a steam engine. So this steam engine operates the left side of the warping gear as well as the windlass. And the second steam engine over there operates the stuff on the right hand side. And then behind us, there is more. So this is another capstan. Same thing on the other side of the room. There's another capstan over there. And an engine drives each of these capstans. I believe there might even be linkages up above, so that way, maybe perhaps some of the winches up above might be driven by some of the linkages, but that's neither here nor there. What is this thing? This knob rotates that up there, rotates that up there. Yeah. No, something's up. I don't know what it is. What does that do? Where does that one go? It goes all the way to the front. It links up over here. I don't know what this controls, actually. It's my first time actually really looking at it. Trying to figure out what controls what. Huh, interesting. Anyway, yeah, that's how that works. go into the galley here. Whee! This is a typical galley on the Titanic. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm trying to read the comments, but I must have missed several comments. Shimazu says, "Can you access the engine room?" Yes, I can actually try to go to that next. Is the engine rooms? Where is it? Shimazu says, "I seem to be having internet trouble. Either that or the stream is lagging." The stream could be lagging. PAA says, "Very nice. I'm excited you will go on the boat." Ozzy says, "When Chris goes to the Queen Mary, he can ask about the submarine." He could, but I really don't think anybody on the ship would really know about what's going on with the submarine. Really, that's more the city of Long Beach knows, because the city of Long Beach is the ones in charge of getting rid of the submarine. Five Caps Film says, "Something that really frustrates me when filming videos is that sometimes when I'm filming in places, people will assume that I'm trying to record them, and they sometimes confront me. It's scary." Yeah, I've never been confronted by anybody, but I did witness someone confront Chris, because Chris was at the Queen Mary filming something for me, and this lady like came up to him and was like, "Were you filming me?" And he's like, "No, no," and he was trying to explain that he was filming the room that they were in, and she was like, "Well, I just want to make sure I'm not in your video," and so he showed her that, you know, she wasn't in his video, because he really does avoid trying to film people. So you could see the woman from a distance in the video, but he turned away from her before he got too close, so you couldn't see her face. So, but yeah, she confronted him and she's like, "Were you filming me?" and blah, 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 you know, and so, you know, we try to be understanding of that, because there's actually nothing wrong with not wanting to be in someone's video. You have every right to tell a YouTuber, like, "Hey, I don't want to be in your video." You know, like, there, you know, by all means, if I'm filming the Queen Mary and you happen to see me and you don't want to be in my video, by all means, walk up to me and tell me, you know, "Hey, I just don't want to be in your video, so can you make sure that I'm not in it?" You know, and I'll make sure that happens. But yeah, thankfully, she wasn't too angry. She was just like, you know, "What's going on?" kind of thing. But yeah, I've never experienced someone being concerned about me filming them. But at the same time, I also go through great effort to try not to film people's faces up close. I make efforts to try to look away and stuff like that. Where am I going next? Oh yeah, engine room. And then we'll go to the engine room, we'll check out the engine room, and then I'll end the stream. So the engine room will be the last place we go. PAA says, "Are you going to see Titanic, Belfast, Nomadic, and nice that hotel seems worth it? Give the free tickets elsewhere." Given the free tickets elsewhere. Oh, right, yeah, the hotel in Scotland. Yeah, that hotel does seem worth it. It's just that it's really expensive, like really, really expensive. I don't know that I can afford it. But am I going to see the Titanic, Belfast, Nomadic? No, I'm not going to Belfast, because it seems like a whole lot of expense to go to Belfast, and there just isn't enough for me to see. I mean, yeah, there's Nomadic, but I'd probably spend just one day in Belfast, just one day. And if that were, not that I'm doing it, I'm just saying that that if I went, it'd only be worth going for one day, and even then, it's too expensive. It's just too expensive to go all that way and it takes up a lot of my time to travel over there. A lot of my time. So I've had to consider everywhere that I go in the UK and the easiest way to get there and make the most out of the places I go. And so Belfast just wasn't on that list because I originally did want to go to Belfast, but it just turned out that it's not it's just not possible for me to go to Belfast. So I won't be doing that. I should have gone to the forward staircase. That's what I needed to do. Dang it. But then someone asked about, do you have a list of must-see places you're going to go on your trip? Places you're going to see 100% no matter what. Must-see places. Well, everything is up for... Whoa, what was that? Oh, it's just something loading in, but it looked like there was someone on the other side of that door over there. It looked like someone was walking over there, but it was just the game loading in. So every location I plan to visit, it's up for edit. You know, I could decide to change it at any point if I feel like, you know, like it just doesn't fit what I'm trying to accomplish. But that being said, the locations that have survived throughout the years of planning so far have been Bristol. So I'd be going to Bristol and seeing the SS Great Britain and possibly the Mauritania Room, which is a local bar / club that is paneled with the wood panels from the original RMS Mauritania's main lounge. And so that's in Bristol. And so I might see that too if it's open. So that's one of those places. Another place that I'm definitely going is Edinburgh. And the reason why is because I really want to see the Royal Yacht Britannia. I really, really do. And I do want to see Edinburgh Castle and a bunch of other stuff down there. Plus, I've always wanted to see Scotland. I've always wanted to see it. So as there's been times where in my planning, I've been like, you know what? Things would be so much easier if I just didn't go to Scotland. Like the planning is so difficult because the idea is to not waste any time. You know, like if I arrived in Southampton, I can't go to Scotland immediately because it would be 8 hours on the train from Southampton to Edinburgh. At least 8 hours, maybe even 10 hours, depending on what trains I take. So that 10 hours of travel is actually a waste of time. So it makes more sense for me to stay in a city that's much closer and look at the attractions there and work my way up to Scotland, if that makes any sense. So there have been times where I've really had to take a close look at Scotland, and I told myself, you know, things would just be so much easier if I wasn't going to Scotland. But I want to see it so much that I have never taken it off the list. So definitely Edinburgh is a place I'm going, and to see the Royal Yacht Britannia, possibly to stay in one of the ship hotels. I have 2 different hotels that are made out of ships there. And then of course to see Edinburgh Castle. So that's another thing. Another thing that's also been set in stone since the beginning is visiting London and seeing different things there. I really want to see the Horse Guards station. That's where the King's Horse Guard. It's their headquarters basically. And that's a couple of blocks away from Big Ben. So the idea in London, I have this whole walking trip planned. The idea is like you go from Horse Guards. I want to say it's called Horse Guards Parade, but I don't want to assume. I can't remember. I could swear it's called Horse Guards Parade. But to go from Horse Guards all the way down to Big Ben, and then there's a ship there. Along. There's a ship along the Thames. I can't remember. I need my itinerary. I have itineraries, like a whole file of itineraries that I've created for various plan A, plan B, plan C, plan D, that kind of thing. Like I really plan out my trips, like really, really. That's why when I made that podcast talking about how Jake in his video should have planned out his trip more, people were like getting mad and being like, nobody plans things out that much. And I'm like, I do. I plan things out very carefully because I don't like to waste my money, or my time. So I plan things out really, really carefully. But yeah, I have like multiple itineraries for like plan A, plan B, plan C if things go wrong or I need to change things. But there's like a whole itinerary I've created for like 2 miles of walking through London, and it yeah. So yeah. And there's lots of things to see along that route. There's lots of things to see along that route. There's another thing that seems to be set in stone is Paris, France. So Notre Dame is something I really want to see. It'd be nice to get close to the Eiffel Tower to get a good look at it. But I don't plan to go up into the Eiffel Tower. I'm not really into the big touristy stuff around cities. So, what am I trying to say? I'm not really big into the big touristy stuff. So, but it just so happens that I'm very passionate about Notre Dame, especially in 2019 when I saw it burn, was it 2019? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's 2019. When I saw it burn, I was just flabbergasted, and it shook me to my core. And I promised myself that if they ever got it fully restored, I'd go and see it. And so definitely, Notre Dame is on my list. It's not something I'm going to skip if I can help it. Hopefully it's open when I go there. I don't foresee any reason why it wouldn't be. But just in case, the only way I wouldn't see it is if for some reason it's closed. I'll get back to that question in just a second. But we're in the second engine room. A lot of people don't know that Titanic had 2 engine rooms. But we are in the second engine room. And the reason why is because this thing down there is the turbine engine. This is what the excuse me, I'm a little bit tired. This is what the exhausted steam from the 2 main engines went into. So it went in here and it spun this using just 9 psi of steam pressure, yet it had an output of 16,000 horsepower, which was 2,000 horsepower more than the main engines could muster at full steam. So, incredible power, isn't it? At just 9 psi, this one little engine outputs 16,000 horsepower, which is more than what the main engines could produce. So let's go see the main engines. And then turn here, and this is the main engine room. Just to kind of give you a good look at what this room looked like. It's not very often where you get to see a ship, an ocean liner of this size, and to see how big the engine room is at a wide scale, because in a lot of ocean liner engine rooms, there's so much equipment that even though the room is huge, it looks small because it's so packed full of equipment. But this is one of those rare spots, like on Titanic, for instance, where you can see almost the whole engine room from up here, which is pretty neat. You can't really get that on Queen Mary. Queen Mary's engine room is definitely bigger than Titanic's engine room. But you wouldn't know it because when you go into Queen Mary's engine room, it's just so full of equipment that it doesn't look nearly as big as this. But it is. It's much bigger. But let's go down and see the engines real quick, and then I'll set the I'll like let the thing stay still while I answer some more questions, because someone left me a question, but I have to get to it because I didn't get to it. Let's just go down the stairs real quick, and then I'll point the camera at the engines. Okay, so let me answer some questions here. So I think I must have missed something. So Outbacker, thank you so much for the donation. A little more for your Queen Mary voyage and European venture. Best of luck on your fitness voyage as well. Thank you so much, Outbacker. That's really nice of you. Sorry I didn't get to your comment till now. I was trying to find a good spot to stop the camera while I was answering questions. Five Caps Film says, I don't like people in my video either, but since it's public, it's unavoidable sometimes. Yeah. Captain Sproul says, I think I'm going to Queen Mary for the 90th anniversary of the maiden voyage. Nice. That sounds fun. Shimazu says, horror vibes. I think it's because of where I was, not because of you, Captain Sproul. I think it's just it's from something I was looking at on the game. Shimazu says, I believe the pub also has her name letters on its marquee. The pub. I don't know what pub. Let's see. Scotland is very far north. It certainly is. It's going to be difficult with Scotland because it's so far. I mean, I think I'll be staying in York. I have a friend who lives near York. And so I think the idea is I go from Southampton maybe to Bristol or maybe straight to London. So originally the plan was to go from Southampton to Bristol and then go up to like Liverpool and then from Liverpool to Edinburgh. But the thing is that I also have to keep in mind that this is going to be super expensive. So I'm balancing the amount of time I have with the amount of money I might have. And I ultimately decided to cut out Liverpool because I simply there's stuff for me to see in Liverpool, but I don't think it's worth the cost because I might not be able to afford it. So I cut out Liverpool. So I don't think I'll be staying overnight in Bristol because Bristol is only a 1.5 hour journey from London. So I'm thinking that I'll stay in London for an unusually long period of time, but while I'm there, I'll also take the train to Bristol to see the stuff I want to see in Bristol. And then while I'm in London, I can take the Eurostar or something to SS Rotterdam and stay the night in Rotterdam and then come back the next day back to London because I want to take the Eurostar from London to Paris. That's going to be my journey to Paris. The problem is, like, you might say, well, why don't you just take a train or something from Rotterdam to Paris? It seems like it would make sense, but I looked at, like, the travel from Rotterdam to Paris, you have to cross through Belgium, and it's actually more than one train. It's like two trains and like three buses in order to get from Rotterdam to Paris. And that sounds way too stressing for me. I don't want to do that. I'd rather just get on one single transportation and get off at the other end. So it probably makes more sense to go from London to Rotterdam, spend a night in Rotterdam, come back, and then turn around and go to Paris from London. And yeah, it's crazy. So I'm designing all these plans and I'm trying to figure out what's the best way and what's the cheapest things I can do. And I really want to stay at that fancy, luxurious, like ship in Scotland, especially because you get free tickets to the Royal Yacht Britannia, which is like one of the whole reasons why I'm going up to Scotland in the first place is to see Britannia. So it's difficult. It's like I have to really balance stuff. And then another thing I didn't plan. So like the European trip was originally planned that I would go with Chris. You guys have been hearing it for years. I've been talking about how me and Chris are going to go on this European trip. And as it turns out, Chris is unavailable to go. So I had to change and pivot. I didn't want to go to Europe by myself because I've never traveled outside the US before. I'm not used to traveling that much. I mean, yeah, I went to New Orleans 2 years ago, but I'm not used to traveling that much. So I don't want to go by myself. And so I ultimately decided to take my father with me because he has always wanted to see Europe. He has always wanted to, to go to some fancy places and see some cool stuff. He has some of the same interests that I do. So I was like, well, I'll take my dad with me, because that's really the only way I can justify paying so much money for a second person. Um, and plus, like my dad and I can share a lot of the same hotel rooms and stuff. Um, so, but nevertheless, I have to pay for my father, which is something an expense I didn't anticipate. Because if Chris had gone with me, Chris would have paid for his half of the trip, and I wouldn't have had to worry about paying for Chris. But since I take my father, I have to pay for my father, and so it's almost like doubling the cost of the trip, almost, because some things would have cost the same amount anyway, but it's almost like doubling the cost of the trip, and so that's been kind of the frustrating part, and yeah, it's been trouble. But in case you guys want to know, uh, you can donate to the trip if you want. I have a, what do you call it? A donation page. It preferably you would do it through Venmo, and the link is in the description below for Venmo. But I think there's also a link below uh for the GoFundMe for it. That would help me out a lot. But otherwise, I'm gonna have to pay it for myself, which is fine. I'll do that. But it does help me to get donations. So thank you guys for those who have sent me like super chats and stuff like that. That really does help. Um, but yeah, so that's kind of what's going on with the European trip right now. I'll set the camera here for a second while I answer some more questions. Um, let's see here. Evan Shipcott says Queen Mary 2 might be retiring. No, it's not going to be retiring. They've got plenty of plans for it in the future. It's not anywhere near retirement age either. The ship has only just barely passed its 20-year age. They don't retire cruise ships until they reach 30 years old, and even then there's so many cruise ships right now that are like 40 plus years old. So no, I don't see that the Queen Mary 2 is not going to be retired soon. It's still it's an older ship, but it's not an old ship. It's only 20 years old, hasn't even reached the 30-year mark yet, and even then, the Queen Mary 2 was designed to run for 40 years before needing any major changes. So I don't see anything happening with Queen Mary 2. Let's see here. Let's see here. Been to London long, long ago. Horse Guard Parade, I believe, and also has the Royal Carriage. It was really awesome. Yeah, I want to see that. The Horse Guard Parade. Um, my grandparents once went there, and there were American tourists, and they said that my and they said to my grandparents, "Why did they build the castle so close to the airport?" Wow. Um, Tower of London is very nice to see as well. Also Kensington Palace. Yeah, Tower of London is on my list of things to see in London. Um, there's also a ship there's several ships along the Thames that are museums that I plan to visit. I don't remember them all off the top of my head, but basically, if you can think of it, it's probably something I'm already visiting. There's also another ship further down the Thames, which has to be like I have to take a train to get there, and I'm considering visiting it because my friend Brad was like, "You have to see this." Like he's my friend from York, but anyway, he was like, "You have to see this other ship, and it's along the Thames, but I have to take like a train to get there." And I'm like, "Okay, well maybe because I have a lot of time in London now since I've cut Liverpool out." So I'm like, maybe I will take the train down to that ship if there's enough to see and do. Um, but yeah, so there's a lot of stuff I'm gonna see. I'm definitely going to Disneyland Paris. So someone asked me a few minutes ago about if there's any things that are for sure 100% I'm gonna see. Disneyland Paris is one of them, because I've always wanted to see that park, and I am a Disneyland fan. I've just always wanted to see Disneyland Paris, so I'm gonna see Disneyland Paris. Another thing that's also for sure is Mont Saint Michel, which is a town along the Normandy region along the coast. It's a town built on a giant rock, and it's beautiful, picture perfect. And I've always wanted to see it. It's a medieval town, and I'm gonna stay there. I have an obsession with staying in old buildings and staying in historic places. Like when I went to New Orleans, a lot of people who go to New Orleans, they stay in in hotels that are much newer. Um they stay in hotels that were built in like anywhere from the 60s to anywhere newer. But when I went to New Orleans, I was like, no, 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 no. I want to stay in a building that's like 200 years old because I've never done that before. I want to stay in old buildings. I want to get a feel for the history of the city. And so when I go, what was the point I was going to make? When I go to Europe, I'm going to try to stay in as many historic places as I can to really absorb the historic atmosphere. I don't want to stay in like too many new hotels. I might have to stay in a few new hotels because I am worried about the cost, and a lot of historic hotels are expensive. But like, I'm going to do what I can. But yeah. All right, Cuddy Sark. So Willoughby Willow by Serenity says Cuddy Sark. Yeah, so that's the one that I said I'd probably have to take a train to get there because I'm going to be staying basically in the heart of London. Like yeah. So and the Cuddy Sark is pretty far from that. So I might have to take like a train or something to get there. I actually don't know how to get there. I haven't looked at it yet. All I know is it's far enough that I imagine a train has to go there. So but yeah, my friend Brad was like, "You have to see the Cuddy Sark," and I'm like, "Okay, I'll see if I can put that in my list because I'll be in London for a while." Um, so let's see. Um, Queen Mary's engine room seems to have small ceilings and cramped. See, that's what I was talking about. At PAA 1927, is that is that remember I was saying a few minutes ago that people would never imagine that the Queen Mary's engine room is bigger than this because it looks so small. But it only looks small because there's so much equipment inside of it. But it's actually a much bigger room than this. Queen Mary's engine room is nearly 6 decks high. Nearly. It's really more like 5+ decks, but it's nearly 6 decks high. And it is the full width of the ship, so 118 feet in width. And then it is also 90 some odd feet in length. It is huge. This engine room that we're in is much smaller. This engine room is about 4 decks high, so it's definitely 1 deck shorter than Queen Mary's engine room. It also spans the full width of the ship, but the Titanic is 92 feet in width. It is not 118 feet in width. So this room, yeah, and then I think the length of this room is about 80 feet long. So if you imagine 4 decks high, 80 feet long, 92 feet wide, that's the dimensions of this room. Queen Mary's engine room, which she had 2, the Queen Mary's engine room was 5 decks high, 118 feet wide, and about 90 feet in length. So the Queen Mary's engine room was definitely bigger than this engine room. It's just that you would never know looking at it because it's so cramped full of equipment that you just wouldn't know how big it really was. But yeah, Queen Mary's engine room is huge, and she had 2 of them. So the bar that has Mauritania's woodwork also has her brass bow name letters. Oh wow, I didn't know that. Okay, I'll have to definitely look out for that. PAA 1927 says London is a good base to operate from. When I went, we took trains to Bath as well as Windsor and Stonehenge. Yeah, I'm starting to see now that it's probably best to stay in London, because even my friend Brad was like, you can find a lot of good quality hotels in London that are cheap. And so I was like, yeah, I might have to kind of operate out of London for a while, because I wanted to stay in Bristol, but it's really not looking feasible for me to do that. Britannia was built at John Brown and Company. I think I heard about that. Yeah. Well, wait. There were 2. So, yeah. So, wait. There were 2 different Britannias. I think the Royal Yacht Britannia is the one that was built at John Brown, which I think is the one you're talking about, actually. So I'm not correcting you. I think I was just trying to get it right in my head. But yeah, the Royal Yacht Britannia was built at John Brown. Yeah, you're right. That is very nice, and I'm happy the most that you are going to take the Queen Mary both ways. You truly deserve as much time as possible on that ship. Yeah, the Queen Mary 2, I'm taking it both ways because I hate airplanes. I really, really hate airplanes. I'm not always afraid to fly, but I am afraid to fly over the ocean. So, I'm afraid to take a ship over the ocean, but I'd rather take a ship across the ocean than a plane. I don't know why. I feel like if I take a plane across the ocean, I'm gonna crash and I'm gonna land in the ocean. And the thing is like if you take a plane across land, the plane actually has a chance of landing on land. But if you try to land in the ocean in the middle of a storm, well, you're gonna plow right into a wave and die. So, that's my weird way of thinking about it. So yeah, I don't always have a fear of flying, but I definitely have a fear of flying over the ocean. And even then, when I don't have a fear of flying, it's really more the experience that I hate. I hate my ears popping. I hate the cramped nature of an airplane having to be stuffed into this metal tube with 100 and some odd other passengers for hours on end, sitting in my tiny cramped seat and drinking a cup of water the size of a thimble. It's just like, It's not the experience I like at all. So I was like, I'm not going to take any planes across the ocean. I'm going to take the Queen Mary 2. And in fact, for the season I'm going, a trip on the Queen Mary 2 costs only barely a little bit more than taking a plane across the Atlantic. Just a tiny bit more. I think I'm paying on one of the trips, which actually is kind of funny. One of the trips I booked was $1,800. That's $1,800. And that trip costs just $200 more than a trip by airplane. And so I was like, wow. Because it's a busy season for airplanes, but not a busy season for the ship. That's the funny part. So I was like, wow, for just $200 more, I can spend 8 days in luxury. So I was like, yeah, I'm doing that. The other trip back home to the United States was only $800. That's it, $800 for 8 days of luxury. So I'm like, you know what? This was totally worth it. Totally worth it. So it made sense from a cost point perspective. And that's 8 days of luxury. They have food included. All 3 meals in the day. You can eat as much as you want from the buffet, even if I wanted to. Like everything's included. So it's a great deal. It's a really, really great deal. So yeah, that's why I'm taking the Queen Mary 2, as well as the fact that I'm an ocean liner fan. I've always wanted to kind of experience what a transatlantic crossing will feel like. So I'm excited. I'm really, really excited. I think about it all the time now, especially since, I'm less than a year away from the trip. It's also kind of scary because I have to save up as much money as possible throughout the year for that and for my trip to the original Queen Mary this year as well, which is going to cost me a lot of money. So but yeah, I have the Queen Mary 2 booked for both crossings. I just need to book all the hotels and all the experiences I'm going to have in Europe. And as time goes by, the plan for Europe will slowly solidify, because I can't plan it all at once because I don't currently know how much money I will fully have. And so as the year goes on, as I book things up, I might not be able to afford one thing, but I might be able to afford something else. And so that plan will slowly solidify throughout the year. And by the time I'm ready to go on the trip, it'll all be fully planned out and it'll be great. Plus, I have a friend who's a travel agent, so I'm going to ask for her assistance to help me plan things out. But yeah. It's frustrating because I wish I had all the money all at once, but I have to slowly pay for things throughout the year. Yeah. Yeah. So Shimizu says, I don't like driving across bridges over big rivers like the Mississippi, so I can understand the dislike of flying over the ocean. Oh, yeah. There's a bridge up here in Oregon that crosses over the Columbia River, right at the mouth of where the Columbia River meets the ocean. There's a city there called Astoria. And I went on that bridge, and man, that was frightening because it wasn't the tallest bridge I've ever been across, but if you count the collection of the span, it was definitely the longest bridge I've ever been on. Well, maybe. You know what? The San Francisco Bay Bridge might actually be longer because it's 2 bridges, but both those bridges are really long. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, it does freak me out to be up that high and over water. I don't know why. It just freaks me out. Shimazu says, and when planes bank to turn, my brain freaks out about how unnatural it feels. Yeah, I can kind of see that. That happens a little bit to me too. PAA 1927 says, that's not bad. You also get good food and relaxation over those days. Exactly. Like, can you imagine that? Like, $800 and you spend 8 days on the ocean on a luxury ship with great food at multiple different restaurants that are included in the price. You know, and it's just the ultimate relaxation trip. Like, I can't even imagine anything better. Like, how cool is that? So I'm really excited because that was a good deal. That was a really good deal. And it was funny. So it's another one of those things where like I'm really good at finding good deals. Um, you know, because one of the reasons why it was so cheap was that I booked it while the trip was on sale. So back in late November slash early December of last year, the voyages were on sale, and I was like, "That's it, I'm booking it." So I'm happy. I'm excited. Um, Someone had emailed me and said, "Well, you know, if you book the voyages a lot closer to the trip, they'll be really cheap." But I told him, I'm like, that might be true, but if I wait until it's time to go, they might actually fully book out, and I might not even get a single, you know, room on the ship, and then I have to take a plane. So he was like, "Oh yeah, that's true." But yeah. Anyway, folks, I think, well, I'll try to answer a few more questions, then I'll go. Um, Also, free events as well, performances, shows. I think they have ocean liner seminars. They do. They have all kinds of stuff. Shimazu says, I'd book a crossing, be bop around on land for the turnaround, and then get right back on. Yeah. But anyway, folks, I think that does it for this live stream today. I'm going to try to be a lot more active this year on this channel with more live streams and things. I kind of have to be anyway because I need to earn that ad revenue if I want to go to Europe. So, but yeah, you know, I'm going to be a lot more active on this channel this year and get a lot more stuff put out and stuff. But yeah, so expect some videos coming out this month, especially I'm going to create a more concise explanation of my thoughts on Bright Sun Travels' video about the Queen Mary. It's not an attack video, first and foremost. I don't want anybody to expect me to be there and like attack him for what he said, but I am going to kind of explain some of the things that he mentioned as to why things are not as dire and as bad as they look. So yeah, anyway, folks, thank you all for joining me on this live stream, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody.